You're listening to Scribble Talk, a podcast for bid and proposal professionals. My name is Baachu, and with my co-host,
Ashley Case,
we will be sitting down with our industry veterans to share their stories, discuss their career, and learn how to make an impact in the industry.
Today's guest is Janet Follmeyer. Janet is certified at the foundation level from APMP and has 20 years of proposal management experience. She began her proposal management career at Day & Zimmermann after a stint in business-to-business publishing. Janet currently is a bid manager for Verizon Business Group. She is part of Verizon's global bid management team, which works on large-scale proposals globally. Janet joined Verizon in 2019 from Comcast headquarters, where she was the proposal manager for the Enterprise Managed Services segment. Janet has worked in a number of industries, including telecommunications, cybersecurity, managed services and staffing, pharmacy benefit management services, commercial and Medicaid, and publishing. She has a bachelor's degree in journalism with a specialization in public relations and a minor in political science from Temple University, as well as an MBA from Holy Family. When she is not working, Janet spends time walking, biking, going to the gym, and exploring Philadelphia's restaurants and bars, where she lives with her husband and cats. She also hopes to be able to travel back to Europe soon. BPC Europe was her last time in Europe. Wow. Janet serves as chair president for APMP Liberty Chapter, which includes New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Connecticut. And she's done that since 2018. And she previously served as APMP Liberty Chapter's programs chair. Welcome, Janet, to Scribble Talk. So great to have you with us.
Great. Thank you so much, Ashley and Bethkar. I'm happy to be here.
We're so excited to have you, but we're curious, where did it all begin? So where were you born? Where did you grow up, and where did you go to school?
Sure. This probably won't resonate with a lot of people, but I'm from the northwestern part of Pennsylvania, bordering Ohio. So I was Hermitage, PA is the town. I went to Hickory High School, which is the public school there. It's Mercer County, which is about a little over 100,000 people. So it's not very populated. I guess one of the claims to fame that people might know is the town next to me. That's where Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails was from, and we both were in the band. So otherwise, there's really not a lot going on there. So that's where it all started.
Goodness. Very cool. And so from there, you went on to go to university and pursue, I think, even additional education?
Correct. Yeah, how I ended up at Temple was I was like, what's the farthest that I can go in the state? And Philadelphia was it. So it's the complete other side of the state, because I was like, okay, I had been in Western PA my whole life. So I wanted something different because, obviously there's a pretty big difference between going 100,000 people to like 2 million plus. So it was definitely exciting to go to Temple, which is in the city of Philadelphia. It's in North Philadelphia. So it's a very urban, very diverse student population, really large school. So it was like night and day from where I came from.
Absolutely. Yeah. Small town to the big city. Very exciting, I'm sure, as, a young college student.
Yep. Had my share of parties too, I have to admit.
It's what college is for, right? You studied journalism. Was your first job kind of in that journalism realm, or had you had any work previous to graduating?
Well, I did some work study stuff at Temple. I worked at the library, and then I also worked for the German and Slavic department on the Kafka Journal, which was kind of a weird thing. So that was writing, like editing stuff for them. So that was kind of journalism-y. And then my first journalism job was just writing for this paper back in the area where I came from, but a Amish dry town. So doing some work on their weekly newspaper. So that was just like freelance stuff. So that was kind of my first actual stint into getting paid for stuff.
Oh, very cool. And then eventually you fell into proposals like the rest of us?
Yeah, actually, I got into it, I think a little bit different than most people in APMP, where I was working at the B2B publishing company for 3 years, and I'm like, if you're not independently wealthy and you work in publishing, it can be tough. So I'm like, I need a job that pays more, quite frankly. And then there was a proposal manager position at Dan Zimmermann. I'm like, that actually sounds interesting. And then I got the job. The person that had the job before, she was moving to marketing. She's now the senior VP of Balfour Betty. So they trained me, her and who is now the VP there. So I actually applied for a job. I didn't fall into it. They trained me for months on it, which I think is probably different than most people's experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very few people kind of pursue an actual position, and they're usually pulled into it from our experiences talking to other people, at least.
Yeah. And my boss at the time, he also was a journalism major. He had been doing the job. He's still at the company, and he used to do like a newsletter. He's from Thousand Oaks, and his dad was in the military, so he worked on their newsletter there, which is kind of funny.
Yeah. So over the years, I'm sure that you've worked on some memorable proposals. Is there any one that sticks out in your mind?
Oh yeah, definitely with Comcast, because it was kind of different because some proposal jobs are fully remote, some of them are hybrid. That was 100% in the office at the corporate headquarters, which I was on the floor with all the senior VPs for Comcast Business. So it was like kind of being in the Shark Tank, but it was good. It was really good from, I had all this exposure with senior leadership, but at the same time, there was no escape. So, and they were there. So we had this one particular project that I worked on a couple of years ago, and it was kind of going into a new segment, and we spent just days and hours just being together. We went out for happy hour, burning midnight oil. Just, it's kind of an unusual experience because typically when, my experience working on RFPs is generally the SMEs are not in the office. You're talking to them on the phone. So they flew them in periodically. So they were there even from like Denver, all over the country. So it was definitely unusual to be face to face with people like that, and we ended up winning, and it was fun for everybody, but it was a ton of work. And at the end of it, we're kind of like, well, I don't think we need to see each other for a while.
Yeah, right. Wow, definitely a memorable one for sure. So can you tell us a little bit about your career evolution? You kind of started out, you applied to that proposal management job, and now you're at Verizon, kind of the steps in between there.
Sure. I mean, it's not really been an evolution, I got to say. I get bored with companies and jobs, which is not a good thing to say for APMP, but I like to just move into different industries. I find that once I've been somewhere, I think the longest job I was at Dan Zimmermann for 7 years. And it's been like 2 or 3 years. Like I was at Comcast 3.5 years, which was the second longest. So I just like to just learn new things. And that doesn't help with a career trajectory, but I mean, proposals are really difficult. So if you work for like a big company, like I've worked for the last couple jobs, it's not like they're going to say, hey, you're going to take over as the director of a proposal. It's just not happening, So, they've been there forever and they're not going to relinquish that. So the career directory has kind of been all over the place.
Yeah, for sure. It sounds like eventually you might need to make your way into proposal consulting, and then that way you have an excuse to kind of just jump around different areas.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I've thought about that.
So can you tell us a little bit about when you stumbled upon APMP?
Sure. It was when I was at Dan Zimmermann, which I started that job quite a long time ago. And I was, it was a really it still is a really well-run company. They have been around since 1901. They have all these standards and best practices and everything. So it was kind of like a well-oiled machine. They had the process in, the RFP process when I got hired. So it was kind of just trying to research, incremental improvements that we could make for the proposals. I implemented a proposal database there. So then I found APMP, and it's like, okay, well, this is good because, it just kind of makes the case for, pushing things forward, and not necessarily my opinion, but this is a organization that's the industry,
Right.
Yeah.
Very cool. And then, so you eventually became involved with the local Liberty chapter. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the leadership roles you've held there and maybe some of your current initiatives?
Sure. Yeah. It used to be, I think Lauren had mentioned that when she was talking, it was the APMP Metro chapter for years. I got involved as the president. I don't know if you guys know Margaret McGuire. She was the president of APMP Liberty for years, and then she relocated to Illinois a couple years ago because her son's going to school there, so now she's part of Greater Midwest. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'll take over, but it was kind of like we had a lot of turnover at the board at that point. So it was kind of, the first year, and I think I made a mistake on that. I've been the president since 2019, not 2018. I was programs chair in 2018, but what we've been doing is we had a goal, and, when Margaret was there, we wanted to get to 300 members. We have a great membership chair, Kim Ruff, who had been with the chapter board before I started. And I think, she's made it a point to try to just do creative things to get the membership up. And now we're at like 326 or something that we achieved.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was like we were always at like 290 or something, and we ended up going like 30 more. And then we hosted we used to have a joint conference called Pursuit Expo with the Nor'easters, which used to be led by Mike Walsh. So we would have that up in New England. And in 2019, we had our first solo conference, and it was great. It was so much fun. It was held at SAP America. Jamie Ninneman let us have it there, and they didn't charge us for it except for the food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. So your first kind of solo symposium or conference sounds like it was a success. Yeah. That's awesome.
It was. Yeah, and we had BJ Loney there. We had Kevin Sotai. We had a cast of characters. It was a really, really fun time. It was low key. Jamie, SAP, helped out with the audio, and it was like a well-oiled machine. There was no glitches that I noticed. I think the only glitch was the hot cocoa didn't come out. So I was just it was really, really exciting and fun.
Definitely. Sounds like kind of your dream first symposium, right? And now everything has to hold up to that standard, though.
I don't know if we can do it, but hopefully someday.
Yeah. Wow. Very awesome. And so local symposiums, sounds like you've been fairly active. What about the international big cons? Have you had a chance to kind of check those out? And do you have any memories of those that you want to share?
Yeah. I've been to the Dallas, the Orlando one in 2019, and then BPC Europe. BPC Europe, I have to say, was really memorable because I thought, because it was COVID. I think Scar, you might have been there, I think. But it was memorable because, you know, it was COVID. My employer said, we don't really want you to go. And I'm like, I'm paying for it on my own. So I'm going. And and I got to hang out with my Verizon colleague who's based in Amsterdam, Judith. So she was showing me stuff around the state. We went out for breakfast. And I spent the majority of my time just talking to her and just interacting with her. She's my bid management colleague in the Netherlands. So that was really cool. And then Howard I didn't know he was sick at the time. And that was, you know, he's great. He was always one of the people that anytime he presented, I would always want to go to his stuff because he really spoke to me with his data and analytics and all that stuff on best practices. And you know, that was the last time I was able to speak with him before he passed away.
Yeah, it's so great that you got to see him for that last time. And so many of us missed out on that opportunity. I know Bhaskar's really, really close with Howard. And as you know, we've named our third round after Howard in his honor. Trying to keep his memory alive with our Netters round.
Yeah, sure. And he knocked it out of the park as usual at Amsterdam. Everybody was like, you know, you wouldn't have known that he was ill. It was just, he did a great job as he always does.
Absolutely. Yeah, it just ended with a bang, right? So speaking of the Netters round, before we turn it over to Bhaskar and head into kind of our more fun, lighthearted round, can you tell us 3 things that not many people know about you?
Yeah, I think I mentioned not many people know that I shortly wrote for a kind of an Amish paper, Amish town paper. Yeah. I was a member of the Temple marching band for 4 years while I was there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that was great fun. I mentioned the Kafka Journal, which is kind of weird. And I did music reviews for a short period of time here in Philadelphia, which was kind of interesting.
Yeah, very awesome. All right, Bhaskar, are you ready for the Netters round?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you for this. And yeah, let's continue with that. So before, as Ashley pointed, before we enter Netters round, one more, talk us through your hobbies and interests, Janet.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I like to do yoga. And as you probably know, that hasn't really happened. I don't do it in my house, but you know, they started back up in Philadelphia. So I was able to go to my yoga class with my yoga teacher, but they're limited, I think, to like 4 or 6 people. But it was really great just to see her. She has been like the instructor at my gym for probably 15 plus years. So it was nice. And I think yoga is probably a fairly popular activity for people in our profession. I like to also take walks. Philadelphia is very walkable. It's very flat city. And, you know, that during COVID particularly, that was pretty much all we had to do here. You know, just taking the time to just go outside instead of just sitting around in the house all day is important. I like to also travel, as I mentioned, like I want to go back to Europe soon.
Nice. Perfect. So yes, I think I do have 6:30 to 7:30 every day in my diary for yoga classes with my teacher, with group training. But for some reason, because of the COVID, it wasn't the same. I used to do with her face to face. You know, it's a nice environment with music and little fragrance and stuff. But yeah, I normally miss the classes. But the day I miss the classes, I always bump into her in the park. and she always make me walk like 5 kilometers with her and breathe now. so, so either way, she always catches me. That's great. I think next time when you're coming to Europe, I will. I know I was about to answer your question on BPC Europe. I was there, but then I muted myself, so I wasn't able to answer you immediately, and you moved on to the next question. So it was too late for me to chip in. So yes, definitely, I'm looking forward to popping to the States for the Denver conference as well. And yeah, July could be an edge for BPC Europe, depending on what's happening here in COVID. But we'll just fingers crossed for you, Janet. Fingers crossed for you. Let's officially enter the Nutters round. So these are random questions. There is no right or wrong answers. Whatever comes in your mind, Janet, just go for it. Fast, go, boom, done. That's it. So if you could make a rule for a day and everyone had to follow it, what would it be?
Oh, at work it would be to like, I'm in a number of committees for like suggested improvements. It would just be to take my advice for one day. That would be awesome, because I feel like sometimes, you know, it's just the difference of an opinion, and we're really strong-willed proposal people. It's just like sometimes you just get beat up, and it would be nice for people to listen to me.
Exactly. Yes. So from Verizon who's going to listen to this podcast, please do listen to Janet.
Awesome. Thanks for that.
Yeah, if they don't, I'm traveling all the way to Philadelphia. Which is do this. So what 80s song do you sing only when you're alone, and what memory does it bring back?
Ooh, 80s song. Geez. I'm a big 80s fan. I'm trying to narrow it down. I am a big fan of the Smiths.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Morrissey. So his songs tend to be horribly depressing. Big Mouth Strikes Again, I guess, is one that comes to mind.
Nice. That's it. If you could switch over and become your husband for a day, what would you do to him?
Oh, I can't do that because he's an attorney. I would get him disbarred. No, let me think. What would I would have him go to yoga class.
Nice.
And then I guess I would have to walk in his shoes for the day, even though I'm not qualified to do so.
It will be fun, definitely. So if Jurassic Park was real, would you visit Jurassic Park?
No. No.
What would the world be like if it was filled with male and female copies of Janet Follmeyer?
Oh, that's a frightening place. I think the world as it exists now is perfectly fine. We like to have different opinions and thinking. So
Totally. So if you were attending a Halloween party, what would your costume be and why?
I have to think about that one. It would have to be like some kind of cartoony fun thing. So I'm trying to think. How about Bender from Futurama? That would be cool.
Mm-hmm. So is that the character that's similar to your character trait, or is it just fun?
Not similar to me, but Bender just makes me laugh because his catchphrase is "kiss my shiny metal ass," which always makes me laugh for some reason.
I will try that today with my wife. Yes, perfect. And cats, how many cats do you have, Janet?
We have 4 cats.
Right, and they are called?
Callie, Junior, Kaiser, and Cougar.
Oh, wow. Is there any reason for those names?
Well, Kaiser, my husband named because he had the Kaiser waltz on the radio when he was taking him to the vet for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So he came up with that name. Callie is not very original. I came up with that name because she's a calico. So, you know, the rest of them, they kind of just, Cougar looks like a cougar. And then Junior was, my husband named him after his other cat.
Nice, nice. Do you have any nicknames, Janet?
I do not.
No? So how did your friends call you during the school days or during the university days?
Just Janet. It's not that popular of a name anymore, so I don't think there's necessarily more than one typically. So yeah.
Yeah, nice. So what product would you seriously stockpile if you found out that they were not going to sell it anymore?
That's a tough one. It couldn't be coffee because I need coffee more than pretty much anything. What product would I don't know the answer to that. I have to pass on that one.
Nice. So have you ever cried at a movie?
Yeah, I think probably Bambi would be the one that comes to mind when I was a child.
So if you could only eat 3 foods for the rest of your life, which 3 food would you pick?
Well, I'm a vegetarian, so probably like falafel, lettuce, vegetables being my main source. I would say like carrots, falafel, and lettuce, spinach. That's 4, not 3. Sorry.
No, that's good. I think some clever people would say meat, vegetables, cakes. It's very generic, but that's great. It's great. Good for you. Good for you. So do you have a memorable kitchen fail?
A memorable what?
Kitchen fail, anything cooking went wrong?
Oh, kitchen fail, yeah. I have a lot of those. I think it's more along the lines of when I bake. So they just don't rise, but I haven't caught anything on fire. So I haven't poisoned anybody. I generally just throw it out if it's not good. So nothing terribly exciting.
Yes, yes. So you mentioned that you would like to travel to Europe for the BPC Europe. What are your favorite places, or assuming the lockdown finishes now, where would you go next?
Yeah. I mean, I always wanted to go to Japan. I did take one thing off my bucket list, but I would like to go back. Right before BPC Europe, I took a side trip to Jerusalem. And that was really cool. And I would definitely like to go back because I only spent like 3 or 4 days there. It was really fascinating.
Nice. So can you speak Hebrew or?
No, they all speak English. There was actually people from Philadelphia when I was there because there's a lot of Americans there. Right. And the one guy was telling me, he said, I could tell you're from Pennsylvania just by the way you spoke. I'm like, okay.
Wow, that's interesting. Do they have accents because I don't know, I speak to few people, but I never know that there are accents in the US, is it?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like Pennsylvania, it's not as noticeable. I just came back. I was in Massachusetts for a long weekend.
Right.
That's one of the more noticeable accents in the U.S. So Massachusetts and the Southern accents, I think, are probably the 2 main ones that are really distinctive.
Got it. Yeah, next time, if the diaries match, I'm more than happy to take you to Israel and Japan, because ancient cultures and ancient languages is my hobby. So I managed to learn classical Hebrew and Japanese.
Wow.
Yeah. So why not? Let's plan sometime, Janet. So that's good.
That sounds great.
So what's one personal trait you really like the most about yourself?
I think it's just very logical, which can be good and bad. I think it's good for being a proposal manager, but in life, sometimes it's not that great. So, yeah, like empathy is one of my, I'm not that much of a people person, generally more reserved. So I try to work on that, but being logical doesn't really help sometimes.
It's fascinating. You've been very friendly. You've been very, happy. And when he said, I'm not sociable, that's a surprise. It's the same for me as well. I'm very happy to talk to people whom I know. But every time when I go to BigCon or somebody, I just talk to the same 10 people unless somebody finds me. And
that's what I do.
Wow, it's interesting because it's been 2 years now after Florida. So it'll be good to meet few people. Most of the people I know by emails or by LinkedIn or by all through podcast. But hopefully Denver will be okay for us to meet up. But that'll be nice, Janet. We're looking forward to meet you there. Yes. So sorry, Janet.
I was just going to say absolutely, and I would invite you to. Generally, our chapter likes to have a presence, and we had a really fun happy hour at Orlando. We invite you to go if we're able to do Denver, and if we're all able to go.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think for the WBBE, I did a fun yoga stroke a gym session online. So yeah, definitely more than happy to do anything, Janet. It's not a problem. So yes. Who are the people who have been the most influential in your life and career?
Sure. In my life, I would say probably, my brothers and sisters. I have 2 brothers and a sister. Just my sister, because she had a really, she almost passed away when she was a child because she had childhood leukemia that she got twice, and she had to learn how to walk twice. Because you lose your functionality from the chemotherapy. So definitely, we talk all the time. And then my brothers, they're like, they're more, I guess, how brothers are. They're more, they'll let things go. They don't take it personally, but they kind of ground my sister and myself. For my career-wise, there's been a lot of people. I think the people at Dan Zimmermann that I mentioned, they were influential to me. It was great that they trained me. My management team at Verizon now, I think they're really good, and they're very supportive, particularly with APMP stuff. They give me some slack with that sometimes, so that's always appreciated.
That's nice. So who is the kindest person you know?
That's a tough one. I'd probably say it could be my sister sometimes and sometimes not. I would say my mother, my grandmother, both of whom passed away. But generally just from my family side, because, with family, it's those are the people that are closest to you. And, they're always there. So
definitely. Totally. Yeah, it's amazing how blessed you are with all the loved ones, colleagues, friends, families. Janet. Nice.
Yes.
So what have you observed lately in this COVID environment that reminded you that people are kind?
Sure. It's just that people, particularly I'd say at work, they have made a concerted effort just to make sure that people are okay, and checking in on them, because I've had jobs where they didn't do that, and particularly nowadays, because it's hard not to overwork and get burnt out. So I just took 4 days off. I'm off today from work. and they're constantly kind of reminding me to, take time for myself. So I think that's helpful. And just in Philadelphia, I think generally people have been looking out for each other in the neighborhood. They'll help, neighbors get groceries and stuff like that. So that's nice to see as well.
Wow. Totally. I think this lockdown has reminded how vulnerable we are at all levels. And it also showed how abundant we are at the other level as well, right? So that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that, Janet. What's one thing you wish you had known when you began your career?
I think it's always just to let things go. Don't sweat the small stuff. That's something that I think comes about as you work more. It's like you think you have all the answers and, you did all the prep work and you could be right, but if people don't want to do it, you don't really want to force your views on other people. It's just to always be open to other viewpoints, I think is really key. Which I didn't know when I started out. It was like, oh, I know I have the answers. APMP said this, so listen to me. And then they're like, nope.
That's nice. So on the other side, what's the best piece of advice you have received and from whom?
I think it's not like one particular advice, but over recently, it's just been to really take time for myself and not worry about particular jobs or particular RFP projects. Obviously, we strive to do the best for everything, but not at an expense on the personal side. So just, keeping people aware if, there's too much to do at a certain time, and keeping just with COVID, I think really expanded this is just making sure that you're following your boundaries, because last year I did notice that I was just like overwhelmed for some periods of time, just doing work, and we weren't allowed to really do anything else. And it was hard just not to do that because it was there and there was really nothing else to do.
Totally. Yes. So successful career, a beautiful family, cats, good, Philadelphia, BPC Europe, Liberty Chapter Association. We touched a lot about you, Janet. What's next for you? What are you looking forward to immediately after this or in the near future?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm enjoying the ride so far, but as Ashley mentioned, I would think about maybe doing some type of consulting work, not in the near term, but just so that I would have more time for myself, really. I think about like long term, what do I want to do in the next 15 years or something? Do I really want to just do proposals that whole time? I don't really think so. Trying to make a difference also to people coming into the career. I think the intentional career path initiative recently, kind of speaks to me. It's just trying to have the time to focus on that for our chapter too, is just making sure that people are available to take these jobs in the near future, because there's not a lot of people that are younger that seem to go into proposal management at the current time.
Nice, Janet, nice. So is there any part of your life or career that we haven't touched, or is there anything else you would like to share before we close the podcast recording, Janet?
Not really. I think I've also done stints in marketing in addition to proposals. And I think that's also important, for the intentional career path and others. the adjoining careers. I know that's something that the association's looking at, but I think if I was going to give people advice or things, is not just to focus on proposal management per se, but maybe get a broader perspective, because it certainly helps out, just to know what other people are doing. Like, I was thinking about your other question, and maybe something I would like to do in the future would be more along the lines of capture management, because that seems to be more strategic, at least, and trying to just shape the opportunity instead of just reacting to it. I think that would be of interest, and that's I'm not answering this question, I'm answering the other question, but I think it's just to be well-rounded, is something that I tried to do. I don't like to say it's not my job, so I do I've done website copy, press releases, like the gamut, newsletters. So it wasn't like, well, I'm a proposal manager, that's not my job. It really does help you in your job, though, to be able to use graphics, to just be able to do different things. So I would just say, everybody try not to get overwhelmed with other work to do, but, try to keep a broad eye out there, because even if it's not an RFP, it will still help you in your career to be well-rounded.
Definitely, Janet. We call this whole thing as full stack bidder, which means we thoroughly encourage a proposal manager to just go left and right, both sides, to become an all-rounder. Otherwise, we will always be considered as an undervalued, overworking workforce, and there is no exit from this sausage factory, as we call it.
Yes.
Bids never stop, and unless you decide to step back and move from your comfort zone into the fear zone and the learning zone, that's where growth happens. And I'm glad that you have making the decision to go and become into a much bigger Janet than who you are today. Wish you all the success, and if we could be of any further assistance, definitely we will be there. But Janet, it was so lovely to speak to you, Janet. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute privilege to have you with us at Scribble Talk. Wish you, your family, your colleagues at Verizon, and everyone, your cats, your husband, all the good health and happiness. Please do stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, and looking forward to see you at the Denver conference. Take care, Janet.
Awesome. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, Vanakkam.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you.
To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Please visit baachuscribble.com/podcast to listen to this episode and check out any of our other previously recorded episodes. If you've enjoyed today's interview, don't forget to subscribe, review, and share the Scribble Talk podcast. We hope you'll check out our next episode where we interview another industry expert and special guest. Until then, it's Ashley Kays,
Bhaskar Sundram,
signing off.